When it comes to Halloween time, just about everybody you talk to has a couple of different classics they would recommend. But many years ago, we were treated to an absolutely beautiful gothic nightmare in the legend of Sleepy Hollow. When a series of gruesome murders strikes the town of Sleepy Hollow, Constable Ichabod Crane is called upon to solve the case. But he must not lose focus or he may lose his head to the Headless Horseman. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my video for Sleepy Hollow during this Halloween special. And this video is special to me because Sleepy Hollow is one of my all-time favorite horror films. A movie I watch every single year around this time of year, and I love it more every time I watch it. Something else grows on me. And quite frankly, it kind of feels like the type of movie we might not ever get again because horror has moved in such a different direction, for better and worse. But it's just a movie that takes me back to simpler times, and every time I watch this film, I get completely immersed in it, get sucked up in the atmosphere. A movie oozing Halloween, beautifully made, one of the most gorgeous looking films ever made in my opinion. For people who follow my taste, Tim Burton may very well be my favorite director. Once again in Sleepy Hollow, you have the visuals in mind of Tim Burton paired with the score of Danny Elfman, leading to the most Halloween experience you could ever imagine. A string of gruesome murders has hit the town of Sleepy Hollow, where victims are being decapitated and somebody on horseback is taking their heads as trophies. Because of this, Constable Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, is called upon to come into town and investigate the disappearances and the crime. Ichabod Crane shows up. He is a man of science and he is skeptical of what is going on because he does not believe in urban legends and he could not fathom what is going on. He believes there is an assassin at play and he hopes to find the culprit, end the string of murders so that Sleepy Hollow will be better off. The movie stars Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, and is directed by Tim Burton. I'd like to believe in the horror community around Halloween time this movie has a reputation, and I think for the most part that is because of the visuals. Us horror fans, we're sickos, we're weirdos, we look for movies that feel like Halloween, that throw us into a world. Whenever somebody asks me what's a movie that just feels like Halloween, it looks like it, the only two movies that are even in comparison nowadays are Sleepy Hollow and actually Nosferatu of recent. Those are the two movies for me that are battling it out for the most beautifully built gothic world where it just feels like a giant gothic fairy tale. And I put so much stock in that around this time of year where I just want to light some candles and get lost in a movie. And this movie, every time I watch it, I feel like I appreciate the way it looks more and more. It feels like period piece horror is kind of a dying genre amongst the new generation, and we don't get a lot of them anymore. And this movie also has such a strange visual style to it. The way it contrasts shadows and lights and fog. It feels like it has such a purposefully lifeless gray contrast to like the real world. It just doesn't feel like a real town, which is part of the reason I find it so immersive. It feels like every character in this movie is kind of like as pale as a vampire. But whenever you have Johnny Depp as the lead performer paired with this incredibly unique and beautiful world, you're left with just a gothic masterpiece to me. Both in the way he appears and his quirky mannerisms paired with Tim Burton's style really gives this movie a life that could otherwise have just been so grim and so dry. But given the fact that Johnny Depp is able to bring life to Ichabod Crane in this very gray and deathly world, it makes both his characters stand out and be memorable amongst a world of very zombie-ish characters. The movie plays out like a traditional murder mystery at first. You have Ichabod Crane showing up to the town of Sleepy Hollow. He gets details from the townsfolk who are saying there is a grisly murder on the loose. With one glaring detail, the killer is taking the heads of the victims. For a man like Ichabod Crane, who is a man of science, taking the heads feels more like it's hiding evidence than something that would be done by urban legend. I really enjoy the evolution of his character in this film because he starts off as the most skeptical person in this movie, again a man of science, but by the middle to end of this film, he is like the biggest believer in this film because he believes what he sees. He's trying to explain it away via science, but at a certain point, what he's seeing is undeniable, that this urban legend people in the town have spoken of is absolutely true. I've always enjoyed that this movie makes you feel like a sidekick to Ichabod Crane as he's solving the mystery. As I said, at a certain point, he knows this is real, but he starts applying his scientific methods to understand how the urban legend can exist and how to put an end to it, which is creative in and of itself, but the way he has all of these quirky gadgets and the way he interrogates people and the way he compiles clues. Christina Ricci's character kind of exists for Ichabod Crane to have this kind of tension between throughout the film, kind of a aspiring love interest. Even though it's based on that short story by Washington Irving, this movie just has a very fairy tale feel to it. And one of the things I really love about it is because Tim Burton is the director, as opposed to a guy like Robert Eggers when he made Nosferatu. That movie was like hopelessly dreadful. It was like very dark. This movie is definitely grotesque in some ways. It's violent, there's blood, but it has that Tim Burton edge to it. So pairing the fact that he's the director with Johnny Depp and his performance and the quirkiness of Ichabod Crane, this movie manages to escape the trope of feeling like a very generic and dreary period piece. It's able to feel like it has a lot of life to it, and it has kind of a cartoonish element to it, even though what we're watching is very serious, it's very real, and it's very dreary in nature, but it doesn't feel like that, at least not when I watch it. And again, it's likely because of the way the movie looks. Because the cinematography is so purposeful in the way it's lit, and the shadows and the fog and the moonlight glaring. Whole thing has this cemetery vibe, like you're watching this on a projector outside somewhere in a haunted field. The more the story goes on, it fleshes out the urban legend of who the Headless Horseman is, what his past was, what his aspirations are. You go on to find out that he's collecting heads until somebody returns his own. Kinda cliche, but I think that is really cool, especially when you have somebody riding around with a sword and a pumpkin. He doesn't have a massive role, but I've always enjoyed the casting of Christopher Walken in this movie as well. Playing this deranged war soldier who's out for heads, who has these sharpened teeth. He's a battle expert. There are two scenes in this film I have always adored. The first scene, when you have the Headless Horseman riding after Ichabod Crane with a pumpkin in his hand, that is one of the most beautifully shot scenes ever in cinema. I will stand by that. And then the second scene being the iconic battle scene on the bridge between Ichabod Crane, the other guy, and him. It ends in one of the gnarliest kills ever. Like, it doesn't have to be Terrifier for it to be cool, just so you guys know. But yeah, the way that scene concludes is awesome, and I laugh out of just pure joy every time, like a kid in a candy shop. The movie's use of blood as a stark contrast to the grayness of the picture also stands out as well. The whole thing kind of plays out like a monochromatic painting where the whole thing is black and white with one smudge of color. So whenever there's blood in this movie, it really pops, because everything else on screen is usually black, white, gray, or a tinted blue. Again, just a very slick, creative choice to make everything being done by the Horseman and all the scientific investigation like autopsies really hit. So yeah, this was supposed to be a review, not a deep dive, but I don't even have any negatives of this film. I know some people probably think the movie drags or it hasn't aged well. There's a couple of kind of silly CGI effects, but for me, I just enjoy this movie more every time I watch it. I think Johnny Depp, gives a great performance in this. The movie's awesome to look at. Honestly, probably why I enjoy it so much. I probably could stare at this movie on mute and have a good time. The Headless Horseman is such an iconic villain in this. It's kind of a shame we've never got anything else related to him since that's had any staying power. And this is just one of the many Tim Burton masterpieces that I watch every single year. I'll probably review some others at some point by him, but this is one of the ones every year on the dot Halloween going on at least once. So yeah, I've already recommended this movie on the channel a couple of times, and I kind of wanted to just gloat about it more than critically review it. Comment down below, let me know what some of your go-to Halloween movies are you watch every single year. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, join the channel down below. I do videos like this all the time. I make horror lists, recommendations, new releases, all of them. You like that content, join us. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.